Hello music lovers, welcome to episode 84 of What Makes This Song Special. A wee short one this week. As always, there's a wee story that I'm taken back to when I hear a certain song. And this isn't one that I'd planned, this isn't one on the list, on the to-do list, but it's one that came to me because a few weeks ago I received a message from a bride-to-be that I was playing a wedding for last weekend. And she was quite late giving me the song choices for the ceremony. I've got quite a lot of songs to learn, as you can probably imagine, for playing at weddings. If I'm playing and singing for the ceremony, I need a piece for the bride going down the aisle, one for, at least one, sometimes two, for signing the register, one for the bride and groom, or the bride and bride, or the groom and groom, leaving and going back up the aisle. And if it's me and the band as well, I need a first dance, sometimes a father-daughter dance, other special important ones. So sometimes I can be learning quite a few songs per week. So I always ask couples to give me a few weeks' notice if they're asking me to learn a song that I don't already know. And with just a few weeks' notice, this bride got in touch and asked me with a sort of apologetic email last minute, her choices for the ceremony. And in there was a song called Wild Mountain Thyme, which is, well, I'll talk more about it at the end, but an old Scottish folk song, Scottish-Irish folk song. There's a lot of, you'll just see at the end, it's a bit complicated. Now, this isn't a song that I was hearing for the first time, and in truth, I left it until a few nights before the wedding to dust the cobwebs off, knowing that it would come back to me quickly, because when you know a song in your head, even if you've not played it for years, within 5-10 minutes you've got it back again. And I hadn't played or heard the song for many years actually. And as I started playing it on the piano, all these memories came flooding back, and these emotions, and the hair in the back of my neck stood on end, and I could feel a wee lump in my throat. And apart from the fact that it's just a beautiful song, it's a stunning song, it just took me back, and it unravelled some memories that had been locked away in the way that music does. And it took me back to my first year of playing in my wedding band, the first year of our wedding band journey. The Unknowns, that's the name of the wedding band, the Unknowns band had started just after me and my wife get married in 2008. I realised that wedding bands get paid very well compared to the gigs that I was doing at the time, trying to make it as a singer-songwriter, which is often just a free pint of beer or something like that. So I realised there was some money to be made out of music, and sold out. In the following year, we had a few bookings planned in place and stuff for 2009. It was supposed to be our kind of first full year of playing weddings, but right at the end of 2008, I think December 2008, potentially before we even played any weddings with the band, because we played a couple of functions just to kind of test the water, a couple of birthday parties and things like that, and I think we had bookings for 2009. Right at the end, I was asked to play for the wedding ceremony of a very good friend of mine, Michael Crozier, who I think I've mentioned on the channel before. His pal Neil had asked me to play for him and his wife's big day in a beautiful Scottish wedding venue, which there are so many of them. And I'd performed at a couple of friends and family's weddings over the years, but I'd never as a paid job. So this was a first for me, and it was quite nerve-wracking. And compared to the band gigs, you're on your own. There are no pals up there with you, so you feel quite isolated and vulnerable. And when you get the nod to start playing for the bride to come down the aisle for the big bride entrance, and everyone's asked to be upstanding, there's definitely an anxiety in that, where you know that this is the biggest moment of somebody's life so far, and it's all on film, and there are usually between, 100 and 200 people, depending on the wedding, watching you, listening to you. You can't hit the wrong note, you can't forget a lyric, you can't sneeze, you can't have a coughing fit, you can't have a bad day. You just have to be perfect for that minute or so that the bridesmaids and the bride enter. And even now, after playing well over 1,000, maybe 1,100, 1,200 weddings now over the years, That's always the bit where even now my heart rate elevates and I take a deep breath and I think, right, don't mess this up, you know. So it's a daunting experience, and young 20-something me with no experience was really nervous, and I turned up really early so that I could have everything set up and perfect so that I could just chill before it, relax. And the trouble was that back then, rather than me being the person who runs everything in the band and manage the band like I do now, we sort of had this 4-way partnership where we all tried to chip in and, you know, and make it work. And that didn't always work too well. And one of the agreements was that we all took a quarter of the equipment away with us at the end of each gig so that nobody was burdened with having to store the suitcases full of cables, the amplifiers, everything else that's needed to make the magic happen. So as I'm unpacking to start setting up, I realised that Mike, one of my bandmates, has accidentally taken the bag with some of the cables that I needed in it, which was supposed to be in my care. And you can imagine the state I was in. Severe panic. Nowadays, I've got spares of everything. Spares for the spares, spares for the spares of the spares. The just-in-case extra items that come with us for every gig. But back then, we were green, and this was my first mistake. And luckily, I'd turned up early that day. And so I set up everything else as fast as I could, and I drove to the nearest retail park that I could find on a very primitive sort of pre-Apple Maps, pre-Google Maps sat-nav that I had. And it did that awesome thing that old sat-navs used to do, where it would take me on this wild goose chase, sometimes down streets that were actually someone's driveway, or it would ask you to sort of turn left and you looked to your left and there was a river, stuff like that. I'm sure any of you who had like the first Garmins or TomToms will remember those fantastic sort of escapades where you just went round in circles, panicking and not getting to where you were trying to get to a lot of the time. Anyway, I'm driving round in circles looking at the clock in the car park, and having something in between a panic attack and a nervous breakdown. Just horrendous. And in those moments, you're just like, oh my God, please, somebody help me. I'm going to ruin someone's big day. This is so unprofessional. I'm never going to get another booking. People are going to be so angry and disappointed with me, etc., etc. And luckily, I found this big shopping retail park, and I managed to find the cable I was looking for in a Maplin electronics shop just in time to get back in the car, get back to the venue, still sweating, out of breath, as the bride was about to come down the aisle. And I'm sure the song was Wild Mountain Thyme. If it wasn't the song for her coming down the aisle, it was definitely one of the songs for the ceremony, because that's certainly what it took me back to. I'd kind of forgotten all about that wedding and all about that experience, and then when I heard the song, it sort of took me right back there. And it made me smile. And it also made me really sad, like, you know, music often does. It made me just think about just those initial excitements of starting a new journey, like, you know, like any journey, I suppose, when you start a new business or something like that. Out of the 4 of us who started that band, 4 best pals, 2 of them are sadly no longer with us, which I spoke about on an episode a while back. Gone far too young and too soon. And Mike, my best pal from school, who was also in the band, who was the one that took the wrong bag that day, he left to move to Canada to get married a few years ago now as well. So I don't know, when I was rehearsing the song last week, all of those beautiful, sad, nostalgic memories came back. 4 young lads trying to make something out of music, trying to forge a career out of something we loved. We were a bit clueless in that first year, but just about got away with all of it and started something that I still get to be part of every weekend, albeit with a different group of pals. So the song just took me back, definitely pulled some tears out of my eyes, and it's just a beautiful song, an amazing song. So as I said, a wee short one, but to me a very special one. A wee bit about the song Wild Mountain Thyme, also known as Purple Heather or Will You Go Lassie Go, a Scottish-Irish folk song with quite a complicated backstory, as I mentioned before. It was written by somebody called Lord Angus P.J. Oates whilst on a lonely journey to Oban. And the lyrics and the melody are a variant of a song called The Braes of Balquhidder by Scottish poet Robert Tannahill. and Scottish composer Robert Archibald Smith. And they were then adapted by Belfast musician Francis McPeake into what we now know as Wild Mountain Thyme, and it was first recorded by his family in the 1950s. Now, the existing tune of Wild Mountain Thyme is significantly different from Tannahill's original, which was most likely based on a sort of traditional air. And McPeake is said to have sort of dedicated the song to his first wife, but his son wrote an additional verse in order to celebrate his father's remarriage. Wild Mountain Thyme was then recorded by McPeake's nephew, also named Francis McPeake. It's really confusing. In 1957 for a BBC series called As I Roved Out. And while McPeake holds the copyright to the song, it's generally believed that rather than writing the song, he arranged an existing folk song and popularised it as his father's. And when interviewed on radio about it, Francis McPeake said it was based on a song that he heard whilst travelling in Scotland, and he rewrote it later. So, Scottish, Irish, I don't know, but it's amazing, beautiful. And there have been literally hundreds of versions of this song over the years, even a Bob Dylan cover. And because of this, there are countless differing lyrical adaptations too. So I'm not sure which version the one that I sing is, but it's probably a couple of different versions that I liked that I've pulled together. So I'm not sure quite which version it is, but yeah, it's been changed a few times over the years. I tried to make it as close to the original as possible. Usually I would give you a vocal coach analysis of the singer, but as there were so many different singers of this song, I've left that part today. So as I promised, just, short one today. That's what makes the song special to me. Is it a special song to you? I'm sure it's a special song to many people. It's a beautiful old folk song that's been around forever. Please leave a comment. If it is, let me know why it's a special song to you. What does it take you back to? And yeah, thanks as always for tuning in. There'll be a version of me playing it. I'm going to play the guitar this week. I played too many piano covers on the channel. I decided a wee guitar cover this week. So I'm going to do a wee guitar cover of it. Hit subscribe, like, share if you enjoyed it. Thank you for tuning in. And I'll be back next week with another song and another story. Thanks.